We're back, and joining us now is Internet Party leader Laila Harre. Kia ora, Laila.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's awesome. We'll just get straight into it. The cannabis policy, that's been pretty controversial. Can you just explain it really simply?
Yep. The Internet Party and the Mana Movement have both developed policies on cannabis law reform. And there is significant overlap between the two policies. So let's just talk about the common ground first. We both agree that cannabis should be legalised for medical use. At the moment, even with the agreement of doctors, people are not able to use natural cannabis to treat a whole range of conditions that it is regarded as a good and effective and non-toxic treatment for. So we both agree on that. We also both agree that there needs to be a fundamental review of all our drug laws, including the law relating to cannabis, and that the approach that we should be taking to drug control is a health-based approach rather than a criminal justice approach. So as you can see, there's a lot of common ground on the key principles here. Where the Internet Party has gone further is that we've then said, and our members have developed a policy around how we would like to implement a sensible cannabis law based on a health approach rather than a criminal justice approach.
I mean,
so
at the moment,
you could say we've put some detail in that Mana have not yet discussed or agreed.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, in the Global Drug Survey in New Zealand, 70% of Kiwis had used cannabis in their lifetime, 35% use it regularly. Is that a problem that we need to look into? And because, I mean, medical is really good, but is there, there's a recreational culture which exists. Do we need to solve that somehow?
It can be a problem, and it is a problem for some people, and so is the conviction and criminal justice system itself. So yes, cannabis use can be harmful. It can be particularly harmful for very young users, and we know that there's a lot of evidence around the dangers of young teenagers regularly using cannabis. Now,
I mean, at the moment, it's in the control of the gangs. Should the government come in and regulate the system? Because then the government has control.
Exactly. This is where the Internet Party is heading with our policies. So what we have proposed is that, the easy, quick thing you can do is to decriminalise personal cultivation and possession for personal use.
Okay, so if that policy went through, then there'd still be quite a lot of legislation with it. For example, age restrictions on this?
Yes, so then that's the next point I'm making. So first of all, we think we should decriminalise cultivation and possession for personal use. What that would mean is that...
Does decriminalise mean legal?
No. What it means is that people wouldn't be charged and convicted for possessing plants or quantities of cannabis that were defined
decriminalisation
in the law
is a bit of
personal use.
Kind of like a grey area. It's kind of like it's not legal, but it's not illegal either.
That's
is that
right.
kind of not taking a strong stand on it, or?
First of all, that's an easy thing to do because that doesn't require the whole framework of the industry to be addressed. But we have then said that we want to develop a model for legalisation, which would require, which would actually regulate the production and distribution of cannabis, and have a proper set of health-based rules around the age, the access, the licensing of sellers and growers and so on. Now,
if I was cynical, I'd be saying this is a bit of a vote getter, isn't it? Isn't this a bit of a vote for us and we'll let you smoke weed? Is that what you're saying? If I was cynical.
Well, no, I mean, the policy has emerged from the members of the Internet Party.
Yeah.
And I think it's also emerging from general public discussion. We spend $100 million a year policing cannabis at the moment, about nearly 3/4 of that, more than 2/3, is spent on investigating and prosecuting users of cannabis. Now, every country in the world that has taken the attention off criminalising drug users has done much better than we have at reducing drug harm.
Yeah. Talking about voting, the Internet Party, you've been open about it. You need to get young voters engaged if you want to get into Parliament. Is that true?
That's our objective. I mean, we're getting votes from all across the political spectrum and from people of all ages. But one of our big objectives has been to re-engage young people in politics and to give young people something to vote for.
So I was at your Lower Hutt roadshow, and I heard you talking about, you said that Judith Collins wasn't giving, or the National Party weren't giving enough funding to the Electoral Commission to get the youth vote up, and so the Electoral Commission can market and get more people out to vote. So what's your stance on that whole thing?
Well, I think that there's been a deliberate strategy on the part of the government to under-resource the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission have been presenting ideas to government for a long time about how they could increase awareness and increase youth turnout in general elections.
So you think youth are less likely to vote for a national-led government?
Absolutely. I mean, if you've read Dirty Politics, have you, by the way?
I'm about halfway through.
Yeah. So right near the beginning of right near the beginning of that book, the guy Simon Lusk, who you'll certainly have heard of by now, who works for a lot of National Party people. Yep. He writes an email to Nicky Hager actually directly, in which he says that the purpose of attack politics is not just to increase votes for the right. Its purpose is also to turn people off voting altogether. Wow. Because if there is lower voter turnout, that will advantage the right because, the right-wing voters tend to turn out.
It's a pretty serious claim there. Do you think this is a National Party issue, or do you think this is more a systemic sort of social issue, that youth aren't engaged in the political system by maybe both sides of the political spectrum?
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between the sort of general turn-off on politics and the deliberately constructed turn-off from politics, which
but then again, things like Dirty Politics, which is discussing the other attack politics stuff. Dirty Politics, like Finderup took up the news for weeks, and it turned
you guys promoted it too.
Yeah, you promoted it, and we didn't hear about policy, which is what we voters should be hearing about, undoubtedly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is, the net effect of this may well be for some people to reinforce their disillusionment with politics. But, I think that Nicky Hager's done a service to us as politically active people and those who actually read the book and understanding how this process works and seeing that it is not just that lower voter turnout isn't just a side effect of attack politics. It's actually one of the purposes of attack politics. And that's what we should be really worried about. And so coming back to the Electoral Commission, I think the government needs to do everything in its power to, based on all the evidence that's out there about what motivates people to vote and how to make it more likely, we should do everything in our power. And I mean, there's some good news already. Already just less than 10 days since the early voting started, we have 2.5 times more people have voted already than had voted at this time in 2011.
There's been a bit of a law change around that, though.
No, the law is exactly the same as it was in 2011.
Okay.
But we've had a lot more promotion. Certainly, Internet Mana has been really active in getting people to vote early, and I think others have too.
Cool.
So that's a good sign. I mean, because I think once someone's voted, they're also more likely to go out and encourage other people to vote.
Yeah.
Whereas, on the day,
We'll let you,
kind of condenses
just
it all.
before you go, one quick question. From your point of view, really quickly, maybe 10 seconds, why do you think that voters shouldn't vote for a John Key-led
Keep it to 10 seconds.
Because New Zealand has enormous opportunities that we are missing out on every day, as that we continue with the national government. And I want to see the old economy solutions replaced with new technology, new ideas, and a digital future.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thanks for talking. I was just about to do that. Thanks for talking to us. It's always awesome to talk to you. What will be on not on the 6 o'clock news?
Can we have a little sneak preview?
We're going to talk about dolphins tonight.
Oh, awesome.
And we also have a little bit of media mischief to report on.
Ooh, but
always,
6 o'clock
always
hasn't been yet.
Sorry?
What if it is on the 6 o'clock news?
I don't think it'll be on the 6 o'clock.
Awesome.
And we're exposing Nick Smith's lies on Hector's Dolphins
Oh,
as well.
that will be interesting. We'll talk about that up next with Taylor. Thanks for talking to us,
cool.
Laila.
Thanks so much, Laila.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
That was the Internet Party leader, Laila Harre. Very interesting. Unfortunate. It's great that she managed to make it after she missed her spot earlier in the show. So what was Laila just talking about there at the end of that interview?
She was talking about the Hector's and Maui's Dolphins, eh?
Internet Party, of course, is one of the only parties who has a policy specifically for dolphins. It's up there on their policy page. It's up there alongside
The Greens would
education
have it though, too, eh?
and internet. Yeah, but
the-
interesting that Internet Man is taking such a really deep interest in this specific issue. It's quite good.
Do you
to see.
trust him, Taylor?
Well, I just think, if they're one of the only parties that are willing to put themselves out with that, obviously we've got the Greens, but, if more parties are willing to jump on board, the more the better, I say. The more awareness we can get, then, the more they're going to be conserved.
What do you have any ideas about what we need to do to save the dolphins?
Ideally, we're going to say no to, the offshore drilling, and that's obviously something Gareth was talking about, which is a really big issue. But for me, the biggest thing to save these dolphins is the whole set nets. They're drifting to shore every now and then, caught in these nets, and it's horrible. We know it's killing them, so why can we still set nets in these areas?
I don't really get how oil rigs are dangerous for dolphins.
Yeah, see, that's what lots of people are saying. I actually met John Key a while ago.
Oh, really?
And,
that would have been fun.
It was interesting. I got to confront him right up about it, and I just said, what are you doing? What is National's plan? We haven't really heard much.
What did he say?
Well, he said that first he told me, he thinks New Zealanders do generally care about these dolphins, and that it is a big issue for him, which is interesting because we haven't really heard too much from National about it, actually.
Yeah, that is true.
So it's very interesting that he did actually talk about it that way. And he sort of said, we do want to see set nets banned, but he did not think oil drilling was a giant risk for these dolphins.
How are they, though? So is it just the risk of the oil rig failing and leaking?
Yeah, and it's the fact that we know these are where the dolphins breed. We know that's where they live.
So would you be okay with oil drilling further away from dolphin inhabited areas? Or
personally, I don't just love dolphins. I love everything that's in the ocean. I love everything on land. And I think, why would you pose a threat to that sort of thing?
I know Seb will know something about this, but how much is the economic gain for New Zealand if we continue with this oil drilling?
It's pretty substantial, I think. Crude oil is certainly within the top 10 New Zealand exports. It's all about balancing, striking that balance between economy and conservation.
Is it though we could kill the last 55 dolphins for money?
Well,
is that appropriate?
Yeah,
clearly
there we go.
that's a pretty serious issue.
Seriously, just isn't appropriate. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
there any economic gain?
I mean, we can't get dolphins back.
We can't. Once they're
That's
gone,
right.
they're gone. And then, in 10 years, people will be like, oh, we should have saved our Maui dolphins. Well, that's what we're trying to do. And I guess, people just need to realise it's a really big issue.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's also awesome to hear a younger person so passionate about political issues.
Yeah. You're pretty young. Do your friends support these causes that you're arguing for?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, as you said, most young people aren't into politics, let alone marine conservation.
Yeah.
So there are definitely people out there that support it, but as you guys said, like, young people at the moment sort of just aren't too engaged with politics. And I think it's so important they should be, because it does affect us,
Absolutely.
So, like, one thing I see a lot is young people tend to have views on issues like dolphins and stuff, but then we have if you try to look into the media, you have things like dirty politics and all of that, which I think that's one reason that a lot of people get put off politics. Do we need to focus strictly on policy? Do we need to look close at policy and say, like, these are the policies that we should, all environmental conservation things, and should we lay back on perhaps like other news, like even stuff like Judith Collins' resignation? Is that so important that we need to hear about it?
I think it's definitely important, and I think the general public, like, if you can vote, you need to be knowing what's going on in that party, but I think this close to election, what did you say? We're like a couple days out or something. So it's like, why would you not be interested in all this? You have to be listening.
I was just taking a selfie there. We'll tweet that out. Of course, we'll have the link to the on-demand of this. You can check that out, beehivemandate.co.nz.
If you want to get your views in, you can flick us a tweet, leave a comment on Facebook, at Beehive Mandate on Twitter, the Beehive Mandate over on Facebook. You can text the number, which I conveniently... Oh, here it is. 020 400 36354. You can call on that if you want, or just flick a text.
That number's on the website.
But now we're going to have rock and roll on, so we'll
to a
have some
song
music
first.
for
Any
you.
suggestions?
Anything.
Anything at all?
Yeah.
Let's
No favourite songs at the moment?
Not at the moment.
Ah.
Let's go with Lady Gaga.
Tough decision.